Hey, I thought I'd make a little update on my EMDR journey. It's actually probably going to go on the back burner for a bit now, so I should probably explain. Okay, so just in case you've never seen my videos before, I'm diagnosed with PTSD, and it's you really do need to get some form of therapy to help you. So even myself, I left the city. I've become a lifestyle and fitness coach, very much focusing on the things that in life we have anxiety around. So clutter, not exercising enough, not moving enough, all these things kind of generate anxiety in our life. So I'm working on them as a profession, and I think, I find that amazing, and it makes me feel really good. But when you have PTSD, there's other things that have happened. So, the way that your brain communicates has been interrupted, and the way that you translate fear and anxiety is it's on another level, really, and that's why it's a disorder. That's why it's an anxiety disorder and a panic disorder. But yeah, so I'm trying to get this therapy, and I thought I was meeting my therapist the other week. I was actually meeting another person who was asking me questions, another assessment. So I had an assessment a while ago, and it was so annoying. It's like we did this assessment and it was really traumatic, and at the end of it the lady said, oh yeah, so yeah, you've got PTSD. And I was like, yeah, I know, I've known that for a long time. And that was the one where she said, right, well, you need to do CBT, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. And I said, no, I don't need to do that because it's not going to work. I need EMDR therapy. And so then I was put on to this other person who, as I said, I thought was my therapist, but no, this second assessment was to work out what treatment would be best for me. And I don't mean to be funny, but I felt like I was going to get fobbed off because I said, what's there to discuss? I've got this condition and I want this therapy, and I've been referred for it. So that's what I want. And she's, the lady said, why are you so invested in it? Why are you so, insistent that you need EMDR therapy? And I said, because that is the therapy, one of the leading therapies for people with my diagnosis. And I have spoken to two private therapists since our last conversation. And who said, yep, you've come to the right place. They gave me some approximates on how many sessions I'd need, depending on, where, if the trauma is rooted in an event or if it's also rooted in earlier life as well. For anyone who's wondering, it's £130 an hour. So, or that's a session, so it might not be an hour, but I think it's probably. So, I mean, my therapist, I see for 50 minutes on the nose, like no more minutes over. So, so I'm not sure how long you get for your £130. But for someone like me, I'd probably be looking at 14 to 16 sessions. So we're looking at a couple of grand. And so I'm trying to pursue my local services at the moment because, I've worked for the last 14 years in the city. I've paid my taxes. Since I've been independent and left work, I've generated my own funds, lived off my own funds that I accrued in the city. And it's come to that point where I've spent a lot of money on therapy, a lot of money on rehabilitating myself and doing as much as I can without that therapy, and there's only so much dancing and jumping around and, practicing, like taking myself out of anxiety and depression and stuff and having my go-to tools. And I love coaching people. It makes me feel great because all of a sudden it's like I'm sharing my skills and it's not about me, it's about my client. And I love that because I don't want to be sitting here thinking about this all the time. I would rather, oh wow, I got a text. Apple, well, they've just ruined my video, but I'm going to keep going. But anyway, but yeah, like basically, Apple have put me off now. You know, there's only so much I can do on my own, and I do need that therapy. And as I said, I've looked after myself for quite a few years now, but you know, those services are there for people who need it, and I do need it. So I'm pursuing it. But what I found out this week is the waiting list is going to be approximately a year. So I mean, I'm looking for a therapy which for what is a serious mental illness, and I've got to spend another year at least without having that therapy. So, you know, I think it's interesting to talk about, because I used to be on the side of, oh, well, I'll just pay it because I was working in the city. Whereas now I'm on the side of, I've paid for, like, over the last few years, I've paid for loads of medication, therapy, certificates in retraining myself. I've paid for setting up a business, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm wiped out, like I'm tired, I'm exhausted, you know, and I do need that support. And at every stage, they've tried to kick me off the thing and say, well, could you sort it out yourself? Well, do you need this? Well, why did it's just like, no, stop it. Like, stop doing this. If someone's got to the point where they're serious enough about getting help that they've called you, and they're trying to go through this process, which is very challenging, stop trying to like deter them. You know, I mean, if I had the funds right now to spend on that kind of therapy, I'd do it, because then I would get my therapy and I'd move on in my life. Being on a waiting list isn't a laugh. It isn't any fun. You know, I want them to turn around and say, right, let's do it now. That's what I thought we were doing. I didn't realize. You know, so I'll just find it a bit irritating. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stay on that waiting list. And obviously, if things change, then I'll pay for it privately and get off that waiting list. But you know, I don't know if they will. You know, it's funny because when you run your own business, people think, well, you know, you just take the money out of the you can't take money out of the business and say, well, I'm just going to pay for therapy. You know, that's completely separate. You don't say, right, I'll just dip into the funds. It's not how it works. So, you know, it's a funny one. It's a funny position to be in. And you know, I'm not going to be in this position forever. But what I have to say to people who are going through this process is we need to find as much of our inner strength as we can and not give up, because we can't give up on ourselves. And you know, I mean, after I did the last assessment, I literally lost my mind. Like, the lady was like, oh yeah, that went really well, you seem to, you know, be able to recall stuff, you know, without too much distress. The next 3 days I was in super distress. Like, you know, I'm smiling because I don't want, you know, it is what it is, it happened, but I don't really want to relive it. But I think the point I'm trying to make is no, it doesn't come without a cost. People retelling you their trauma, it doesn't come without a cost. They go away and they re-experience and they get, you know, all these things going through. I felt like I'd gone back to the beginning the day after. I literally was like, wow, like, not wow as in good though. Gosh. See, and maybe that's my coping mechanism now. I couldn't even smile for about a year, but now I laugh. So, you know, I think that probably helps. But like, yeah, you know, and I'm not saying that, I'm not criticizing them in the sense that I don't think they're good people working behind these services. But what I'm saying is they're in a position where they're really stretched. And so at every opportunity, I feel, you know, it's like, oh, just sort it out yourself. And it's like, no, I've been doing that privately and personally now for several years. I need your help. Okay, so if you really do need their help, you just have to keep on it. And I guess, you know, hearing about that waiting list, it's not as bad as one of my friends who had like a 3-year waiting list, which is just insane. And her condition was, you know, it's quite, I say it's quite severe, like, to the extent of how it can affect her when she gets triggered. So it's kind of like, wow, we've got these massive waiting lists, and it's like, well, and not the funny thing, like the common thing is that a lot of us, when we've got ill, is we all sit here saying, oh my gosh, I used to have money, a job, blah 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 blah. Look at what's happened now. Like, didn't see that coming, and now I can't help myself because I can't get out. It's like this vicious cycle. I have to say I'm really grateful for online, because I've been able to reach people, talk to people, coach people, do projects with people online in the last couple of years. And if I didn't have that, I'd go crazy. I really would have, though. Even making videos now and putting them on YouTube, it kind of helps work through some of these things. So just kind of talking out loud about it kind of helps, because you can kind of put it into a perspective and say, so I guess from talking now, what I've put into perspective is the fact that it's going to be, say it's 11 to 12 months that I have to wait. Well, in 11 to 12 months, providing, nothing changes, I will get that support. I'll be able to start my journey. It's a shame I have to wait so long. But in the meantime, the other part about having a business is that, you can really throw yourself into it. So I'm really that's what I love. I love doing coaching, and I love working on the business, because it is like this positive thing that I'm generating that I can really, get excited about. And obviously when it comes to finances and everything else, like everybody else, it's been really tough. But the actual, writing, talking, and meeting people who are interested in the things that I coach, that's really kind of kept me going. So, but yeah, so there's nothing to say about EMDR other than we're on a delay. But if it's of any use to anyone who's going through this kind of process or thinking about it, what I've experienced is that they do assessment to just confirm for themselves that you've got the diagnosis you've got. Then they will suggest treatment, which in my case, it was no way, CBT, forget it. So then I got referred, because I was so like, EMDR. I got referred to get assessed for that. And then, as I said, the second assessment is more like looking at the treatment, what treatment's really going to work for you, what's most appropriate. And then I guess you just wait until they assign you someone, and it happens. I mean, with EMDR, there's only one doctor, one psychologist. There's literally only one. So that's why the wait's so long. Well, what I'd say to the government is that's absolutely ludicrous. That's insane. One EMDR therapist. Like, I know not loads of people get PTSD, but like plenty of people do who don't have the opportunity to get any treatment. So, and if they were trying to get treatment and people are trying to knock them off the list at every stage, they will get knocked off the list because they can't deal with it. So I don't know, I just think the government are crazy. And I think they need to invest more in mental health, because with PTSD, it's a mental physical condition. It's not a mental, it's just not just mental issue. But the thing is, your body's still working, even knowing it's kind of being dictated by the brain, whereas your actual mind is like going all over the place. So I'm okay calling it a mental illness, because even though it affects my body in so many ways, it certainly is very much what's going on in the brain and my head. So I just think it's crazy. And it doesn't take 11 months for someone to go through that therapy. So there's more than me on the waiting list, and there's more than me who are taking the therapy from this doctor. And he can't just have one patient a week, because that would be crazy. What would he be doing with his time? So he must have more than one. So that sounds like there's a little bit of demand for the EMDR. Maybe there's a few people with PTSD out there. And anyway, I'm just going to keep going on, so I'm going to stop now. gonna stop. But you know, I've got upset, I've got angry and everything, and I'm just chilled on my videos. But you know, because there's no point in like getting, oh gosh, all right, I've got to go. Bye.